Welcome into the Tuesday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Tuesday morning. Hope everybody is doing well. What a night in sports last night. A national title for the Tennessee Vols. A Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Final. We're going to get into all of it today. First, though, let's check in with our man Joe Rexrode, live from Omaha, Nebraska. Joe, how we doing? Did you get any sleep whatsoever? How was last night?
Doing great. The person who is supposed to be working the Starbucks right now just decided not to show up at the desk.
That's good.
So that's my rant for the day. That's it. That's my rant. Oh, actually, I better be quiet. There's probably a lot of people sleeping nearby. Last night was incredible scene, and we're looking at about it's right around 3 hours.
Okay. That's actually maybe a little bit better than I thought. I don't know if it's good or bad.
I know sometimes it's like if you're under 4, then it's almost like, would you be better off with none? But we'll find out in the next 3 hours.
Yes, we will. We will find out in the next 3 hours. Nick Keyser, what's going on? How we doing?
I'm good. Yeah, last night got to have a family barbecue and take in the Stanley Cup Final. So I'll always partake in an event like that at the, I guess, not the Keyser house. That would be G-Maw's house. So.
Did you watch any of the Vols?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
We had two TVs going.
Right.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And we saw
Peyton Manning
on TV last night.
Peyton Manning was on TV a lot last night. It was quite the combo of Peyton Manning, Rick Barnes, Josh Heupel, Morgan Wallen. Interesting crowd up there in the box for Tennessee. A lot of Peyton Manning coverage on the television last night, Joe.
Yeah, well, 3 of those 4 guys got to get right in my face, or I guess I got in their face. But I just said hi to Rick and Josh, and then Peyton was very generous with his time and quotes on the field after the game.
That's
so
good.
And I think we can probably officially say that Peyton is no longer. There's no longer like a reason to cry or worry when he shows up to a Tennessee game.
I think so. I think the curse is officially lifted at this point. Tennessee wins the national title last night, 6-5 against Texas A&M. It got a little hairy toward the end. Got very hairy in the 9th inning. Didn't know exactly how that one was going to wind up, but they closed the deal. They finished the job. We're going to break that down all show long. 615-737-1025. Your reaction to Tennessee, Tony Vitello and company breaking through and winning the national championship. Joe, there was a lot that went on last night from Xander Sechrist, another outstanding pitching performance from him. Kirby Connell coming up with some clutch outs there. You had the slide that ended up being the game-winning run, which was awesome, which was, I think, the number 3 play on SportsCenter's top 10 this morning. And then you have Christian Moore starting the game off with a bomb with a home run. There's a lot that happened last night, but what did you make of Tennessee's path to victory in the decisive game number 3 for the national title last night?
Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, they were, I thought, on their way to kind of just cruising, and it got way more interesting than they wanted it to get late. So you have to give credit to Texas A&M for sure for battling back, but it's just like that lineup. I mean, you're just not going to hold it down for too long, and really that was Texas A&M's. Ashton Beck is Texas A&M's best pitcher in terms of the numbers, and obviously the intent was for him to have a lot of this game, even though he's more like the late innings guy. But I mean, he has ridiculous numbers and great stuff, and he'll have nightmares about this lineup too. I mean, Dylan Dreiling,
clutch.
First of all, yeah, the first player to ever hit 3 homers. In all, or to hit a homer, not 3 homers, but to hit a homer in all 3 games of a final series. And also, I believe they were all with 2 outs in the 7th. I think that's right, which is very weird. But weird. I think that's right. But he is an incredible player. Christian Moore starts it off. I mean, I think that was huge. We talked about yesterday the idea of getting on the board first, and I just think that just getting that lead, getting your leadoff guy I think it's his 6th leadoff homer of the year, 34th overall of the year. Just an incredible, probably untouchable year for a Tennessee Volunteer from Christian Moore. Just so many guys who are, I mean, they're off to the pros now. This was a team that was old, and there were a lot of guys who homegrown who were here this year. And of course, you start that with Moore and Burke. So this was a year to take advantage. That you just don't know when all the things are going to come together like they did this year. But again, they're going to have years ahead where they have more high level pitching. It's just that, Xander Sechrist is all of a sudden just the absolute ace of aces out there.
Well, apparently so, and another outstanding performance from him last night. And we talked before the game yesterday on the show about if he could just give you 4 or 5, you'd feel like you're in pretty good shape if you're Tennessee, and he gave you 5 1/3. 5 1/3, 7 strikeouts, only 1 run allowed for Xander Sechrist, and he was dealing. I mean, he had that one, I guess it was the 4th inning, where maybe it was the 5th, where he just went 1, 2, 3 right in a row and struck them all out. And it was like, geez, man, this guy's just dealing. And it was pretty clear. We talked yesterday about pressure, right? And would pressure get to Tennessee in a moment that's this big? And it felt like the complete opposite for Xander Sechrist. Like he was thriving all game long.
Yeah, look, he's a little different, man. He's different. He's just out there having fun. And I mean, that curveball, just whenever he really needed something, he would just take it. You could see it. And they just couldn't touch it. I mean, they just couldn't touch it. So just incredible command with a curveball for him. And and then of course after the game, he, Danny White's at the press conference. He's like, hey, this guy needs a lifetime contract.
Yeah. By the way.
But hey, man, it's his last night too. Sechrist, Kirby, Canal. I mean, again, the fact that I wrote some about those guys, like the fact that those two comic relief guys turn into, because Canal strikeouts were massive.
Yes.
When Texas A&M was really trying to mount a comeback. I mean, it's pretty amazing that it would come down to those guys having those high leverage moments. I mean, usually you think of guys who are, probably going to get drafted. And I have no idea. I mean, I know these guys both want to, and we'll see, what happens with them in the draft, but they're not high round prospects, and they came in to this and they hadn't really had roles like this before. Connell has had a good role, but not, not like this.
Right.
And what a night for them to finish their careers like that. I mean, it's very storybook.
It was storybook, like you said. I mean, Cannell with 2 huge outs, 2 huge strikeouts late in the game. Combs comes in for the last inning. Loy, it got a little hairy. He gave you 1/3 of an inning, and there were some wild pitches happening. I mean, even Combs had a couple that got away from him on the mound. So it got pretty tight towards the end there, and Vol Twitter was embracing the battered ball syndrome that was coming their way, but they held on. And when that last strike was made there, just the reaction, Tony Vitello, it was almost like he was in shock in the immediate aftermath of the game. He was getting interviewed, and then they finally dumped the water bucket on him, and he started like chewing ice cubes like a rabid dog out there. It was pretty hilarious.
Oh man, last night with him was, to tell you what, man. I mean, if I could, like it seriously was like trying to like follow around like an escaped convict or something. I like
crowd surfing.
Who had just escaped. I couldn't believe it. I was right behind him, and I'm really mad I didn't get video. But there's a great video. Like I think ESPN had a great video from the other angle.
Yeah. Of
him going in the crowd. Did you see the quote I got from him?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I asked him. I said, "Okay, so which rock star are you? Which rock star were you channeling there?" And he just immediately goes, "Yeah, probably Stone Temple Pilots."
Yeah.
I promise I don't do drugs, but that was my first concert. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it.
No context. My dad went to high school with one of those members of that band.
Really? How about that? There's
Which
always
one?
a connection.
I think it was the drummer.
Okay.
Yeah, he used
Okay.
to say, yeah.
The only name I know is Scott Wieland. Rest in peace. But yeah, so there you go.
I will
Wow.
say, I was
Never know where the show will go.
I was wondering, what a championship celebration from Tony Vitello could look like, and I have to tell you, it did not disappoint. It was every bit of what I expected, probably a little bit more, Joe.
Absolutely, and it did not stop. And he then it was like, so he's all over the place. And he's got his dad, so he's got, and then all his like extended family and cousins and nieces and nephews, and he's got, I mean, every single one of them. Then he and Barnes and Heupel are hugging, and then he's running around. And even after the press conference, which is way after, I mean, that was like almost an hour after the game ended, he finally goes in for the presser, and then I'm up in the press box, and he's back down there like any person who was around. He was finding them. Hey, you want a picture? Like, I mean, it was something to behold.
It was. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Tennessee wins the national championship, their first national championship in baseball. We'll take your thoughts, your reaction to the game, to the season, to the celebration for Tennessee, everything on the table. 615-737-1025. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Nashville's best deal of the week is Puckett's Restaurant. Swing by a Puckett's Restaurant where down-home tradition meets a vibrant atmosphere. From their mouth-watering slow smoke barbecue to comforting classics and live music, go to thegamenashville.com/deals to get a $50 gift card to Puckett's for only $25 while supplies last. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode. We are broadcasting live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you on this Tuesday morning. Tennessee wins the national championship last night, 6-5 against Texas A&M, their first national title in baseball program history, and their first national title in a quote-unquote major sport since 2008 when Pat Summitt and the Lady Volunteers won. So you got football, it's been in a drought for a national title. Obviously, men's basketball searching for their first one. And baseball, Tony Vitello and company punches their ticket last night. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines and your reaction all show long. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Some quick numbers for you. So last night's win for Tennessee, outside of the obvious of just punching their ticket for the national championship, they became the first SEC team in history to reach 60 wins in a season. So 60 wins for Tennessee with their win last night. They're the fourth conference team ever to win the SEC regular season title, the SEC tournament title, and then the Men's College World Series in the same season. So you're talking about some pretty rarefied air here for Tennessee baseball. And look, you know, people started in the immediate aftermath of this last night talking about, was this can you put them in the conversation with the best baseball team that we've seen? And again, I don't know, like the numbers would say, again, first SEC team in history to reach 60 wins and the fourth team in SEC history to go regular season title, SEC tournament title, Men's College World Series title in the same season. So that's a pretty short list right there. I don't know where Tennessee ranks in terms of best teams that we've ever seen. But certainly, Joe, when you look at some of these numbers, it's unbelievably impressive. When we talked about this heading into the series, if they got the title, that would mean 60 wins, and that's a nice round number that not a whole lot of people in college baseball get to, that number 60.
Right. I mean, that's, obviously never been done in the SEC. I do think that the discussion of this team as one of the best, however you want to rank them, I think offensively you can look at the lineup and absolutely this is one of the best offensive teams we've seen. They end up 184 home runs, so 4 shy of the record. This is a high home run year, but that's what happens in the sport. And the teams that have those records are probably doing it in those years where whatever is happening. I mean, I know with the college baseball, a lot of it is like the bats and the different things, the phases they go through. But I mean, this is an insanely talented lineup. But like I said, I mean, it's just, in terms of like pitching talent, like 2 years ago compared to this, 2 years ago, as far as talent, I mean, I think there's a significant difference in that team and this team overall, and it's mostly on the mound. So I think that this team you have to look at like the intangibles and some of the chemistry stuff as bridging the gap with this team. So if we're just basing it on pure raw talent, I don't think that this team it's not his most talented team. It might be his third most talented team.
Yeah.
But that's the champion, and they were just consistently great all year long. And if they had a stinker, they would always respond to the stinker, just like they did this weekend. So those are the things that are harder to measure. But obviously, this team, we just talked about Sechrist and Connell. I mean, that's a great example.
Well, and one more number to throw in there, the curse, so to speak, of the number 1 overall seed not winning this thing since '99. Tennessee put that to bed last night too. So first team in 25 years to be the number 1 overall seed heading into the tournament to finish the job. So I guess you can go ahead and put that one off the list too. Just incredible stuff from Tennessee in Omaha.
Yeah, the second ever. So, I mean, it just No, it's really just a really remarkable team, and it is a program, as we've talked about, that's gonna be right back there. But like we know with the SEC, I mean the SEC dominates this sport.
Yep.
Dominates this sport. And so, like every year you can kind of expect some ups and downs, various programs, and whoever loads up correctly and times up and all that stuff could be right back on top. I mean, I expect this program to be knocking on the door and have a chance for more of these, but I think that this particular team, obviously, I mean, all the things you just listed, right? That's why they're going to be remembered. But I mean, it's hard to get an exact mix like he got this year.
So, Joe, you were live and in person last night for this, watching it happen. At the time that this play went down, you didn't know how big a deal it was really going to be. It ended up being a huge deal, and the reason they won the game, if you want to just go by the game-winning run. So, Kavaris Tears hits one deep into kind of right center-ish field. There's a play at the plate.
400-plus feet.
Yep. There's a play at the plate, and Hunter Inslee just makes an incredible play. Cuts back to the inside, avoids the tag at home, and he not only avoids the tag, but is able to get his hand down and put it on the plate without sliding all the way over it, and avoids the tag. He's safe at home. They go back to review it, and it was clear from the jump of the review that he avoided the tag and made the great play. Number one, what was your reaction when you saw that? And number two, where do you think that Hunter Inslee play ends up in Tennessee lore?
Yeah, that's like a play that'll be just talked about so much. My reaction at the moment was, "Whoa, did he just do that?" I mean, that was the whole press box was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
And then you're like, "Gosh, he must have got a tag on him, right?" Then you look at the replay, and it's like, "Holy cow!" And that's what Christian Moore said afterward too. He's like, "I mean, I thought he was out," and then he was like, "But no, I think he said he broke his ankles."
I looked up at Josh Heupel and said, "You might want to get on that, buddy. See if you can get him the ball in space."
Yeah, well, although you're not allowed to spike it, I don't think in college football, and he spiked his helmet, so that might be 15 yards. But it was a phenomenal play, just a phenomenal play. And yeah, I mean that's a lot of what people were talking about afterward. It would have been a phenomenal play regardless, but obviously the way things turned out with the Aggies getting a couple more in the ninth, as Tony Vitale afterwards says, I guess the strategy we're just give him a couple runs. Turns out to be, like you said, the winning run. So yeah, that play will be talked about. I mean, it's like to juke like that and also have your body control so that it's perfectly to the hand on the plate as you go down.
Yeah.
Way more difficult than people might realize.
Yeah, just an incredible play by Hunter Inslee. And we said it yesterday, and it was not perfect from some of the top guys in the lineup. Dreiling comes up with another huge home run, and he was outstanding all World Series long, all season long. But you needed some big hits, some big moments from guys like Christian Moore and Blake Burke, and you got him. Like Moore led off the game with the home run. I thought, after he hit the homer, I thought he was kind of reaching for some after that. But he made a big play defensively in the game as well. Blake Burke with a couple of big defensive plays. But I thought Burke was crushing the ball last night. He just had a couple that he just missed leaving the ballpark on. So he was seeing the ball really well last night. So some of the guys that you need to come around, I just mentioned Tears. It was his hit that the Inslee play came off of. So some of the guys in the lineup that you needed to break through a little bit came up big in some big moments last night.
Yeah, especially like I said, Christian Moore, and he had a hit yesterday, or not yesterday, but he had a hit, in the after the offer in game one, he had a hit and then a huge walk, obviously in the second game, and then the homer yesterday. Tears certainly got it cranking again, and it was well timed for them. Amick kind of had a tough go of things there, so they didn't have. They didn't have everything rolling, but they had, but they got some stuff from the bottom of the lineup too. I mean, those guys chipped in some big hits for them as well. So, it was just an all around, all around team win.
Yeah.
And, like it's just amazing how many of those guys, and I know this happens a lot. I mean, usually teams get to the College World Series, get to this point, they're probably old / they've got some draft eligible guys, but like so many of the guys in that field last night knew it was going to be their last game.
Yep. Chris from Gallatin on the text line asking, I wonder how Chase Burns feels right now with some crying, laughing emoji faces. I did see some of that last night.
That was a strong candidate for my rant, Chris, but I guess you screwed me up by doing that. I saw that on Twitter last night. I'm like, right now in this moment, you're thinking of Chase Burns. This is what you're thinking about.
There was a lot of
that. How petty are you? And your team just won a national championship. Chase Burns must feel like crap, huh? What?
So it was some of the first things I saw after they won. I was like, all right. Vol Twitter getting in there, baby. Chase Burns, screw you. We won the national championship.
Those homeless people outside the stadium must be really miserable. It's so hot outside.
Oh, God.
What?
Hey, shout out to people in the Ferris wheel yesterday, too. Saw your tweet.
Dude, insane. I hope they're okay.
I hope they are, too.
I hope the best for them and for Chase Burns. Enjoy your national championship.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Your reaction to Tennessee winning the national championship last night against Texas A&M. Where does this championship register with Tennessee fans? What does this do for the Tennessee fan base? We'll take your thoughts on all that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you. Nick and I live from Nashville, Tennessee. Joe Rexrode live from Omaha, Nebraska, where he's been since Saturday. 100 degrees out there in Omaha yesterday. Looked pretty hot. And then Tennessee made the decision to wear black jerseys, Joe, and I thought to myself, what in the world are they doing? It's 100 degrees. They're wearing black jerseys. They've got the opportunity to wear white or orange, and they're just going to purposely add 20 degrees to themselves. But I guess they know more than I do. Joe,
Right.
worked out.
I swear to you, had they lost either of the last two games, that was going to be one of my first questions at the press conference. Who made this decision? I want answers. Now, I will say that Wes Rucker, friend of the show, did say last night that the material is thinner on those
Okay.
than their other ones, so they thought that was a worthwhile trade-off. But it's mostly just like they feel like it's good luck. They just think they win in those every time. So
apparently they do.
I mean, some of these parents, like, it's amazing. You know how baseball is. It is like this more than any other sport, right? You win a couple games, or all of a sudden you get a hitting streak, and it's like you got to chew the exact same stick of gum on the left side of your mouth. Like some of these parents, like, actually were like getting into the stadium early so they could make sure they get in their exact configuration. It's like, I think it's like Cal Stark's mom has to be right next to Nate Snead's mom. It's something I had it all written down.
Some
it's
detail.
Like she must be on her right, during the game. It's just, I mean, that's so these uniforms, I think they only have like one loss in them this year, maybe, or right? Like, it's something like that. So, hey, man, but I'm with you. It's like it was blazing hot. Plus, they were the home team, and the home team at the beginning of the game, like, the Aggies were shade in the dugout, along with the fact that the Vols were in their black uniforms, just cooking like soup. But hey, man, didn't stop them.
It did not stop them. Drew on the text line says, UT got a little lucky. Nearly every run for A&M was off of errors. Congrats to the Big Orange. Finally got a ship in Tennessee. I feel like some Tennessee catching some strays on that text from Drew. Ben from Cumberland City says, as much as I hate the Vols, that was a great series and tournament in general. At the end of the day, you want the batter to have a chance to tie or win you the game. Congrats, Vols fans. That was a fun season to watch. The whole tournament was great baseball all the way around. Joe, one of the things I saw in the aftermath of this last night, and this came from several different fan bases. I saw it from Alabama fans. I saw it from Georgia fans. I saw it from Vandy fans. Basically, the theme was we are not looking forward to Tennessee actually being national champions in something, and the reaction of the fan base that's going to transpire since then. So people not excited that Tennessee is the national champion here, unless you're a Tennessee fan.
Yeah, but maybe, and of course I'm saying this right after people are like, hey, Chase Burns, how's that, buddy?
Have some of that, Chase Burns.
Wonder where he is right now. I'm sure I'm going to see some videos of like the Henry To'o, or the picture of him, after they lost, the Bama team lost. I don't know, though. What if this makes Vols fans, like, kinder and gentler? Like, just be happy.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the videos I'm seeing are just people dancing and dogpiling, and that's how you should react to a national championship. Maybe Vol Twitter becomes a kinder place now that they have actually have a championship in the Twitter era to celebrate.
You might be onto something there. I saw even the phrase that we talked about last year, Joe. That picture of Vitello, Barnes, and Heupel together was just making the rounds last night. And there's a video that I think a local TV station in Knoxville came out with of like Heupel embracing Vitello and Vitello jumping into his arms. A lot of people quoting that on Vol Twitter last night, Joe, and saying golden age of athletics. And I was like, you guys better shut up and give Joe Rexrode credit for that first. He was the first one.
That's right. Now, I took a lot of crap for that because they hadn't won a championship. And I was like, yeah, it's fair. Like, I get it. You have a fair point. You got to actually win one. So now they have. I mean, that's the thing. That's the last thing I had in my column today was Peyton Manning, because, I thought he brought up a great point, Like, he's talking about his fandom for this team. Of course, he was there 2 years ago, and we all blamed him for being there. But, he talked about, if you have your heart ripped out, that means you're actually good enough to have your heart ripped out, right? I mean,
Yep.
that's the whole point. And so I know it's not, I mean, if you're just knocking on the door and you're close over and over again, then at some point that gets frustrating. But I mean, think about where this athletic department was just a few years ago and compare it to now. I mean, and we'll see with women's basketball, new hire, and I don't know where that's going, but you're talking about the SEC sports. If people care about that, some don't, but they just won the All SEC sports title. They're right up there nationally, and in those three sports with those guys, they are like they just won a natty. They have a chance to be in the playoff this fall, and they have a chance. I'll say, yeah. I mean, we'll see how it all shakes out, but they could be a Final Four team next year, or a team that can at least aspire to do that. So, how many athletic departments can say that?
So they punch their ticket. They win the national championship in baseball. And look, obviously Tennessee fans are really excited. They break through. They win the championship. Notwithstanding, Joe, I had a rant last week where you were gone about how I was in an establishment a few weeks ago, and the Titans-Steelers divisional playoff game from 2003 came up, and like Eddie George scored like this 1-yard touchdown in the first quarter to put them up 7-0, and the whole place was going nuts. Like people were just like high-fiving each other. And now you'd never see that in sports anymore because the first thing people do is go to the phone. So they win the championship last night, and ESPN pans out to like the crowd shot, and no one's moving. Everybody's on the phone. I'm like, what is this? This sucks. Everybody just go crazy for half second, put the phone down. Now, there have been some nice videos that have come out in the aftermath since then of Tennessee fans going nuts. So Tennessee fans very clearly excited about this. Where does this championship register? What do you think breaking through and actually winning the title does for this Tennessee fan base?
Yeah, well, again, I think that we've talked about the BVS, and it's just like the first thing goes wrong, and it's just, oh my God, So, I mean, to actually come through and win, I think a lot of people have been bracing for the worst, right? And thinking it was they get so close, and then another tease, and so, I mean, it's got to be gratifying. Again, like, think about that. Like when they won their last championship of a sport that's followed by Tennessee fans, they're really like no one had Twitter then.
We were all on MySpace.
Also, exactly. So, and I'm with you on the phones. It's just what it is now. I mean, it's just what it is. Everybody wants to document it, and so it just totally changes like that a moment like that. But yeah, it's eventually those folks, they were going, especially the ones who had to like make sure Tony Vitello didn't hit the floor when he launched his body into them.
He was not only so I'm glad you brought up the ESPN camera angle of him jumping in the crowd, because not only does he jump into the crowd, he like starts body punching people. Like he's like throwing throwing lefts and rights. I'm like, what's going on around here? It was awesome.
Oh man. Oh gosh. Yeah, it was like as soon as he did the bleep, I'm on the screen, it was like it woke him up, know, and then they, the Gatorade thing, they didn't just dump it on, they like put it on his head. They hit him in the head with it. They dumped it on him and then said, "Here, have a little shot to the head from this thing." And then all of a sudden it was like boom, he was off. But so he made up for the fans who were taking video with his celebration, I guess.
He did. Look, I think this was, even for a Tennessee fan, and I know some of these people, like they've gotten into baseball. Everybody, I think if you're a Tennessee fan that's invested in their athletic program, their athletic department, then there was no choice but to buy into this, right? Like it was fun. It was fun to watch. And even if you're not the biggest baseball fan, I think there was some joy in watching that go down last night and watching them break through. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday. I mean, it's, college football is kind of its own beast, right? Especially in the SEC. So it's not, I don't know if it's comparable to that, but to just see them break through in a major sport, I think was really gratifying for the fan base last night. And it does, like if you're Danny White, I know Danny White didn't hire Tony Vitello, but it's just kind of a confirming of what's going on. That's right in this department right now. Like things are going really well. Like football's recruiting well. There's a high expectation heading into this year. We've talked about the men's basketball program. I mean, they had a great battle with Purdue in the Elite Eight to get to the Final Four this year. There's a new coach coming into the Lady Vols program, and Vitello is arguably the best baseball coach in the country with the best baseball program in the country. So things are going really well, but you needed to see somebody break through and win a title. And the fact that they were able to do that last night, I think, is kind of reinvigorating for a fan base that has been starving for this. And I think you saw some of that last night. Like, some of the reaction I've seen is really cool of Tennessee fans that were just like, crying and with their parents and stuff like that. It was cool to watch last night. So, again, it's not if and when the day comes they win a football national championship, it's going to be a totally different deal probably than what we saw last night. But I think for a lot of Tennessee fans, it was cool to see them finally break through in a major sport.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are. Obviously, Tony Vitello is his own. I mean, that like just an absolute cult hero. Like, he's going to go down as one of the most popular coaches in any sport in Tennessee history.
Yeah.
But I think we talk so much, right, about the transit nature of college sports, and it's hard for fans to latch on to people because they're in the portal, they're out of the portal, and all this stuff, right? I mean, I think this is an easy team to fall in love with. Like these guys have been there for years.
Yeah.
Again, with Connell, Sechrist, Moore, Burke. I mean, like they've got a bunch of guys who have been around, and some guys in the portal too, but a lot of guys who have been around. Drew Beam for at least like 3 years, if not more than that. Like with Kirby, I mean, Kirby's been there. He's like he's like Fulkerson. Man, he's got all these like furniture company deals, and in East Tennessee,
Yeah.
and he's been there for like a decade. So I think that there's that too. Like, I think a lot of fans are just specifically in love with this team, and they should be.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Ty on the text line says, a desperate and starving fan base got to have an appetizer last night. I'm still hungry, in all capital letters. So Ty, not satisfied. Last night, the first step for Ty. 615-737-1025. Your reaction to Tennessee winning the national championship. What does this win do for the Tennessee fan base? More on that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
in the SEC. What does that in itself say about the league, about the SEC, and how deep and difficult it is to win in this sport and in other sports too?
Yeah, it's literally insanity. And I said it on the field, again, not very intelligently, but, I would rather just be me, I honestly don't like phony conversations or, you go to a restaurant and the waiter's got the voice, they change their voice. Hey, how can I help you? I don't want to be somebody I'm not. So we've got nemesises we play against and all that, but I honestly have more respect for the coaches in this league than you could ever imagine or type into words or print out in words. And then you add in the guys who have families and do this. I honestly can't comprehend how you can juggle both of those things, because that's all I can do. So like Coach Heupel and Coach Barnes, their sports are the same. It was so good to see them. You have to lean on other people to survive this thing, because it is a monster and the traditions are so deep. And you did mention our university. No sympathy. We got all the resources in the world with where we're at. But it's a place where we kind of had to build a foundation to catch up with, again, some of these other storied programs. And I don't think you ever, I guess Coach Saban would argue, but you don't ever really get to a point where you can look down on everybody, because the instant you do that, you're probably going to take an uppercut from one, if not multiple places.
That's Tony Vitello last night after the Tennessee Volunteers win the national championship. Got into the waiter's voice inflection there, which I did not expect. Another great one from Vitello after the game last night, Joe.
I had this idea. I'm going to write something more on him. And it's like, I got to go through and find all his greatest hits just from this tournament. And it's it's too much. Also, it's literally insanity. It's actually insanity. People are out there ah!
It kind of was.
Well, yeah, actually, I guess he's kind of right. But yes, the waiter voice.
Filtering
amazing.
through the crowd.
Hey,
how you doing? It's not me.
I swear I don't do drugs. Just amazing that he just gave that quote. Gentry was standing right next to me. We both just busted out laughing. It was just
I smoke weed constantly.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. I got a texter that says, going back to a text in our last segment, Ty can shut the hell up. I'm enjoying every bit of this championship. I don't think Ty was saying you shouldn't enjoy the championship. I think he just wants a little bit more.
Yeah, it's okay. That's all right.
Yeah.
Hey, I've seen some of that too. Okay, Nico, your turn. Another natty.
Yeah.
Incoming.
Drew says, I feel it was the team of destiny. Been knocking on the door for years. I'm absolutely pumped. Now, if we can dethrone the Dogs this fall, we'll be on our way. The entire UT baseball team is hanging over a toilet as we speak. Well, can't confirm or deny that.
I saw some of them wandering the town as I walked to my hotel around 1 a.m.
Yep.
They were out there.
Streets of
as
Omaha.
well they should have been.
Yes,
That's right.
As well they should have been. No,
Hunter Ensley sasaid that. He's like, I'm looking forward right now to some cold beverages. I'm like, hey man, you're above the legal limit.
Yep.
And it's a nice walk from your hotel to all these bars.
Yeah, Vitello or Vol Twitter last night was build the statue, and you had all the Texas stuff yesterday too, which we'll get into a little bit later in the show. But I think last night even for him, everybody knows he's a great coach. He's been a great program builder. He's been a great recruiter. They've had fantastic teams. They're number one in wins in the country the last 4 years, all that stuff. But even for him, knowing all that, even heading into the game last night, Joe, to actually get it done and to win, it elevates you. It elevates you into a different status when you punch through and you win. And, Corey Curtis was talking about this yesterday. Once you get that first one, it's easier to go get the second one. Tennessee proving that they can do it this year, winning in Omaha, the number one overall seed, the first number one overall seed to win it since 99, is a big elevator for Vitello just in terms of his status nationally. And everybody knew he was a great coach, but how many great coaches do we know? Look, Paul Maurice last night has been coaching for 30 years. He's one of the greatest coaches in the history of the game just by wins. And last night he finally broke through and won a championship. And people were talking about well, that's it. That cements his legacy. When you win one and you break through, it's an elevator. And now Tony Vitello's got that at an early age.
Yeah, no, it's just a huge difference. It's a huge difference. Look, Rick Barnes, who no one who knows him doesn't like Rick Barnes, and Rick Barnes is a great coach. He's the best Tennessee men's basketball coach of all time. But like when this team lost to Evansville in games 2, I'm seeing these photo illustrations of Rick Barnes' face on Tony Vitello, right? Like that's part of his fair or not, or whatever degree of fair you think it is. I mean, look, I think it's fair to some extent. I mean, you win it or you don't, and so his postseason lack of finishing and also at times underachieving, that's part of the discussion around Rick Barnes, right? So, like Tony Vitello now is basically untouchable. I do want to jump into one thing on him because Chip from Mount Juliet brought it up, and I think it's fair. He said, "What was the deal with changing pitchers so much?" I think that strategy almost got them beat. I will say, like the Dylan Loy move, I was scratching my head at the time.
Yeah.
Wes was like, "Well, they love him, and they think he's got a great head on his shoulders and is like all this." I'm like, "That's great. I think next year he's clearly going to be a huge part of this team." But right now, you're gonna that's just a guy who hasn't really been regularly in those moments, and you saw it, right? So I do think that, like, that they lost last night, that would be coming up a lot today.
I agree. Like, but those decisions, and look, this is why you get paid the big bucks. You got to make it. But like those decisions are so tough. Like I was going back and forth with people after the 5th inning. Like I thought they should have taken Sechrist out, and he had just struck out the side. But I was like, he's creeping up towards 80 pitches. It's 100 degrees, and you're 1 inning away from it just totally falling apart on you. And look, he was still dealing. He came out the first batter the next inning and struck out another one. So I was like, well, I mean, maybe he can just go 115 pitches tonight. Who knows? But then defensive coordinator part of it, like the reaction to pitching changes is so reactive based on what happened out there. Like it's a really difficult decision to make at the time.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I would have been, I was on the other side of you. I was in the press box saying, I'd just keep going with this kid. But, now you're getting third time through the lineup with, as you said, high count for pitches for a guy who's still, I mean, he threw 102 pitches against Evansville, to get the Vols to Omaha. But for the most part, that's not the norm for him, plus the heat. But I was still like, I'd go. I was surprised they took Snead out. Now, Snead did pitch the day before, but I was like, he still looks pretty good out there to me, And I also was surprised that Combs pitched at all. And I think you saw the effect of a guy who threw 60-plus pitches just the day before, right? Yeah. He did not have his best stuff. So it got a little dicey there. But, yeah, the Loy one was just the one mover. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like I figured at that point it would have been Kirby. And, of course, eventually he got his shot and got it done. And he didn't have a long outing himself.
No, like it was like even Snead, Snead came in and got some big outs for him. But, he's typically bringing it 96, 97, 98. And yesterday he was sitting 93, 94, which, I mean, it's still coming in hard, but it's not – there's a difference between 93 and 97. Like it's and you could see it kind of in his arm yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, he had some fastballs that were more like 90, 91, and exactly the day before your high 90s, and it's there you go. I mean, that's not just back-to-back days, but again in that heat. I mean, it really does matter. Did Keyser he called him Dylan Drilling? That's brilliant if he did. Good job, Keyser.
Well, if so, Keyser needs to trademark the T-shirts.
Yeah, drilling. I like it.
When did I do that, Joe?
Someone on the text line said that Keyser referred to Dylan Drilling as Dylan Drilling. I don't know. Was like during the update?
Maybe yesterday, perhaps? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
well,
yesterday.
You need to lean into it. That could be good.
Exactly.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm glad you went up T-shirts because I got a Vols fan. I got to try to buy him a championship T-shirt today. Don't let me forget.
It's not me. 615-737-1025. Our phone number is 615-737-1025. Joe, I was looking last night to see when it would start, and it started basically 22 seconds after the championship was won. After people got done yelling about Chase Burns, immediately Tennessee and Vanderbilt Twitter sniping at each other. So has Tennessee officially stolen Vanderbilt sport? We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.